Now, it's less than 2 weeks until the Albanese Labor government's new social media ban for children under 16 comes into force. December 10 is D-Day for Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok and some other apps as well. But one New South Wales MP has put a spanner in the works, well, he hopes. The Libertarian John Ruddick has filed a High Court challenge against the new laws. He joins me now. John, good to talk to you again. Firstly, why do you oppose the social media ban?
Okay, well, there's two principal reasons, Chris. The first is that even if Mr Albanese has the best of intentions here, which is to protect children online, everybody agrees with that. But what's going to happen is the kids are very tech savvy. They are going to get around this so-called ban. It's been going around every playground in Australia for the last 3 months about how to get around the ban. So they're going to get around the ban, but the parents are then going to think, well, I don't need to worry about it anymore. Social media used to be bad for my kids. I used to need to monitor them, but now I don't because Mr Albanese is going to do it. So they're going to go to the underground internet, which is only going to be a lot worse without parental supervision.
So all right, your second point, your second reason for opposing it?
Well, I believe it's a slippery slope to further censorship of the internet. Now, the internet is the greatest machine that mankind has ever built. Okay, it's got lots of negatives about it, but it's got a hell of a lot more positives. Okay, and it's about sharing information. And governments always want to mission creep on censoring. So if they get away with banning under 16s, they'll then think of other things to ban in the years ahead. And so we have to say no to it now.
All right, interesting arguments. Just to go to your first point, you're effectively opposing it because you don't think it'll work. You've come to that conclusion before you see whether it will work.
Well, I know how tech savvy kids are, and yes, they will get around it, Chris, one way or another. Now, I'm sure that Mr Albanese will try to play whack-a-mole and stop it, but the internet's a very powerful thing. Okay, the kids are going to get around it. Look, even if it works, let's imagine for a moment it works. That means you're going to have a 16-year-old, they turn 16 today, they've had no background, no parental supervision with social media, and then they get dropped into the deep end. Now, it would be better if for the few years before that, the parents could have said, look, social media can be very positive, there can be some dangers, so be careful. And by the time the kids get to 16, they're going to be able to spot a scam.
Yeah.
Spot somebody who might be a danger. But now they won't. They're just going to be thrown in at the deep end.
I think so many of these government interventions right across the spectrum are looking to usurp the role of parents and take over the personal responsibility and parental responsibility. We seem to want to outsource all this to the government as if it was Brave New World or 1984. So your argument is pertinent there. Let's go to the High Court challenge then. Tell us about the grounds for the challenge and whether it's expensive, whether you've got the money to deliver this legal outcome and how long it'll take.
Well, we are hoping that there will be an injunction next week. We're certainly going to be having a preliminary hearing, and that if we get the injunction, then that means that the law will not come into effect on the 10th of December. Then we expect the court, the full bench of the High Court to make a decision probably March, April next year, but that is in the laps of the justices.
So you'll argue for an injunction on the grounds that this is denying 16-year-olds or those younger than 16 the right to free expression?
Well, the High Court of Australia found in the 1980s that our Constitution does have an implied right to the freedom of political communication. I would prefer a US-style First Amendment that is a lot more stronger than that, and this has been upheld for the last 4 decades. Now, a 16-year-old, I accept that most 16-year-olds are not overly interested in politics, but a decent minority are. You probably were, Chris, when you were 16.
I was, and my kids are now, and so is plenty of their mates. So there's no doubt that young people are interested in politics.
I can imagine myself at 16, I would have loved YouTube. I love history. I would have, it's an endless resource. Now, a 16-year-old, Chris, is going to be voting in a lot more state and federal elections than you and I are going to for the rest of our lives, simply because our lives are going to be shorter than a 16-year-old. And they're going to be, if a 16-year-old is probably going to be voting within 2 or 3 years' time. So they need to have access to political information, and we do not want the government saying, well, you're not allowed to access that information and you must access this information at the school. So we want a diversity of opinion. But I do really want to stress, Chris, being a parent in this time, monitoring your kids' online social media presence and activity is a paramount responsibility.
Absolutely.
And the parents, if they take their foot off the brake and they think, I don't need to worry about it because the bureaucrat's looking after it to me, that's a recipe for disaster. Worse things will happen.
Yeah, good, John. Thanks for joining us. Good explanation. I appreciate your time. John Ruddock there, the Libertarian MLC